This is News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM KFYO, and we do have Dave on the line. He's social distancing. We also have Councilman Massengale on the phones. Also, it's a lot different talking to people on the phone, isn't it, Councilman?
It is. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning,
Dave. It is a different experience.
So, but you do get to be at the comfort of your own home, so I guess that's good. Councilman, thank you for joining us this morning. I know that things are going kind of crazy, and y'all are doing the best you can. And I want to say that first off. I know that y'all have received a lot of criticism, but I do believe that you're looking at what's there and trying to do what y'all think is best. And so I understand that completely. And but now, yesterday, one of the big things that I do want to ask you about is Mayor Pope is going to start apparently he said as early as Thursday, wants to appoint members to an economic recovery council or something to that extent. And he listed off what he wanted some of these members to be a part of. Does that mean that the city is now looking at potentially what's happening next, what's going on next, how to kind of get out of this?
Yes, Matt. I think, we don't know at what point in time we can start moving out of it, but we want to be prepared to make sure Lubbock opens up as fast as possible, as fast as is safely possible. The mayor announced yesterday that he will appoint an economic recovery task force that will be made up of, it'll really be, I think, what he's calling a blue ribbon group that will guide Lubbock through the recovery process. It'll be represented, members on that group will represent all different facets of our community, would be healthcare. You can imagine Texas Tech would be represented there, including many of the industries that have been affected by COVID-19.
Well, and I don't know that there's many industries that haven't been affected by it in Lubbock. I mean, the whole city, to some extent, has been shut down. Now, I know that there's a lot still moving, but I mean, everybody, I think, has been affected in some way by it.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
So, what's I know that during this, Latrell Joy, or Councilman Joy, was talking about personal responsibility and getting the city open. Now, kind of seemed to be the direction that she was going. Was there other councilmen who were kind of thinking the same way?
I think Mr. Christian was vocal about how soon we could get back open. I feel like reopening will be gradual. That's one thing we're going to look for this group from is what does gradual look like? I think we have to communicate with the public to help build consumer confidence. I don't know that if we opened all up tomorrow that there's a rush to the gates to get to be in these businesses. I think people are going to be concerned about our businesses doing what they can to keep the public safe when they're in those businesses. So there's a lot of work to be done as we move into what we'll call the new normal.
Well, Councilman Dave King here, and welcome to the show this morning. I'll tell you, I was just saying earlier, you may have heard me. I don't envy you and the mayor's position particularly. This is one of those things that's damn if you do, damn if you don't. And either way you go, there's going to be a lot of criticism.
Right.
As you know, on this show, we and on KFYO with Chad, a lot of anger is building. In fact, I have not seen the amount of anger, I don't believe, expressed by many, at least a faction, that is so concerned about getting this country, the city, back open. And I know you are a businessman. Your businesses are suffering, are they not?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my stores, we actually closed our stores before we were mandated because there was nobody coming in.
Well, it seems to me like that we're going to have to bite the bullet at some point. And listen, I'm saying this as someone who you could check all the negative boxes on me. It would be very, very dangerous for me to catch this virus. And so I see both sides of this thing, but it looks to me like you're going to have to open the city back up at some point. We have to.
You're right. You're exactly right.
Our lives depend on it. The city government depends on it. Our national government depends on it. And it's going to have to be where the citizens take responsibility and limit where they go for a while and wash their hands, wear a mask, use sanitary hand cleaner, and just limit. And intend to the stores, or I think they're beginning to do a good job on distancing customers, so forth and so on. But it looks to me like, I'm going to have to come down on one that says, let's get this thing open sooner rather than later. What are you thinking?
Well, it can't open soon enough for me, but at the same time, the priority has to be the safety and the health of our community.
But how is that in my opinion to open later, though, Councilman? I mean, what's going to be different a month from now or 2 months from now that's different from what would we do opening it now?
Yeah. Well, here's what I think. In my opinion, when we get the green light, and keep in mind, and I know that a lot of the frustration gets focused on us right now as a city council, but keep in mind we're under the governor's order right now till April 30th. And by the way, the governor is having a press conference today, and we're hopeful that we'll get some guidance on what reopening looks like from him today. But you never know. In my opinion, when we reopen, I think businesses will be required to continue to practice some form of social distancing. I feel like this face covering the face is going to become more prominent, if not required. I feel like businesses will continue to have sanitation strategies, cleaning surfaces often, hand sanitizer. And I think I think when we open, we're still living in that type of world for quite a while.
Okay.
I agree.
Councilman, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. This is News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM KFYO, and we've got Dave King as well as Councilman Massengale on the phone. And Councilman, I'll tell you, we've had a lot of text messengers text in, and
how does that work? A text messenger?
Yeah, I don't know. It's somewhere in between. I just roll with it. I don't know. We've had text messages from messengers that they're pointing out that Amarillo has opened up to small businesses that have been willing to follow guidelines of social distancing. And I know for a fact Amarillo has, but I've even heard some of our text messengers are bringing up Midland and Abilene as well. And so their point is that, the governor was very vague in the way he set stuff up. If they can open up, why can't Lubbock?
Well, I think every community has their ability to interpret the governor's order, but if you go look at his order, it says specifically that you're to stay at home except to get out and to do essential things, and we think we're in compliance with the governor's order. I think there's some question on whether if those other communities are in compliance or not. You're correct. The governor has been vague in the way that he has guided us down this path, and that's why we're anxious today to see if he's vague again today on giving us some type of guidance on when we're given the green light, how we will reopen.
Now, Councilman Massengale, Lubbock has been a big local control group, and so again, you look at places like Amarillo who've been able to open. I mean, the governor hasn't condemned them for doing so. Do you think that Lubbock should at least be looking at ways that they could open businesses if something changes with the governor? If maybe rules and regulations, maybe even looking at what Amarillo and some of these other communities have. so that we can both keep the community safe and open everybody up as well.
Yes, I think everybody's ready to look at what those regulations, if you want to call them that, might be for when we reopen, and that's what this Economic Recovery Task Force will do.
Okay. So I do want to ask you one other thing right quick. I know Dave probably has a question there, but some people have received fines for opening up either. I know that one was apparently allowing someone into the business, and so there have been fines given out. Is that something that the city would look at waiving?
You mean when we determine what reopening looks like?
Yeah, I mean, would y'all be willing to, those that have already received it for whatever reason, would y'all be willing to look at those and waive those?
You know, Matt, we haven't discussed that. That hasn't even crossed my mind, but I think everything's up for consideration when we determine what reopening looks like.
Okay.
Well, Councilman, yesterday we had Eddie McBride on from the chamber for an hour, and he gave us some staggering statistics that we've got 12,000 citizens of Lubbock who have filed for unemployment. Well, first off, I don't know if the system can even handle processing 12,000 unemployment claims.
I can assure you it's very congested right now.
Oh, I can imagine. I can give you nightmare scenarios. An Airbnb that we were going to go to took out insurance, cancellation insurance. You can't even get them to answer the phone. And I'm sure that they've got bazillions of cancellations, and everything is just congested and boggled. Nothing like that works right now. Try to get a hold of your credit card company. They've got so many inquiries. But anyway, and again, I noticed the point being that 12,000 people, 12,000 Lubbockites out of work, staggering. And yesterday, I noticed we were out and around trying to find some drive-through Chinese food, and I went to a shopping center, and there was a nail salon that was open, and I know that it's supposed to be closed.
You're correct.
The open sign flashing, and they're in business, and I see more and more, and my car wash is closed, but other car washes are open. What's up with that?
Yeah, I think you see like a car wash closed. I think that's a corporate decision. And we've seen other cases like that. For example, Best Buy. Best Buy is closed except for curbside, and that's not because of the order. That's because they chose to do that. Now, the nail salon, that's a dangerous situation. There's person-to-person contact in those personal service businesses, and they shouldn't be open. And that's per the governor's order. They're mentioned specifically in the governor's order, and those we need to know about those because those are dangerous situations right now.
So, Councilman, has the city been looking at what it's going to, what potentially could happen as far as the income that's coming into the city and how, what kind of cuts the city may have to make with that income coming in?
Yeah, city manager gave us a report on that during the work session yesterday. As you can imagine, that's just, in some cases, severe. I think one of the most interesting or sad statistics is the utilization of the airport. We're down like 90%.
Yeah.
That's reflected in our occupancy in our hotels.
Okay, I apologize. This is a hard break, and they're going to cut me off. We can get back to that right after this break. We'll be right back with Councilman Massengale. This is News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM KFYO, and we want to go directly back to the phones with Councilman Massengale. Councilman, you were talking about the downturn. You had said especially the airport, and I'm sorry I had to cut you off. We'll see if we can get back into that.
No problem, Matt. What I was saying was the part of the report Mr. Atkinson gave to us yesterday was how low our hotel occupancy has has gotten. And, when you ask about what the impact is to city revenues, that remittance and those collections lag. So it'll ultimately, we won't start understanding the impact probably until next month, and then give us some idea of what difficult decisions we may have to make as a council as it relates to city budget.
So let me ask you this. What is the occupancy rate right now?
Oh, now I'm going to have to hear asking me to remember exactly how. I think we're down in like the 20s is what our occupancy rate is, and normally it's like at 60. I would encourage you to go back, if that's something that interests you, to go back and look at the video from the council meeting yesterday, and you can pick up on that. But if my memory serves correctly, I think that's what we're at.
That was my thoughts too, Councilman. That's what I remember. Hey, we have a couple of texters this morning, and obviously one that probably works with Durham Transportation says travel companies such as bus companies are out of business at least until school starts again. The school business has been gone since mid-March and won't return until late August. Church camps have closed, doing away with summer business. So even the businesses opening back up, bus companies are severely impacted, are pretty well done until September. Another texter says, please open up the business. And this is a text that is sent specifically for you, Councilman. We already are in the practice of using appropriate precautions within those stores that have been open through this event. We know how to give people space to cough in a sleeve, to clean up after ourselves, to wash our hands, to wear a mask if needed, to stay home if we're ill. We're adults. Allow us to live our lives like adults. So that's a sample of some of the KFYO listeners this morning, Councilman.
Sure. I mean, I understand the frustration. I would remind the texter that right now the council doesn't have the authority to do that. We're still under the governor's order. Again, we're waiting for guidance from the governor, and as soon as we get that, we will rapidly come up with a plan to, once we're given a green light, to safely and responsibly open us back up for business.
Well, how does Amarillo open up?
Well, I think they're interpreting the governor's order differently than we are, and if you read the governor's order, it's pretty clear on what should be open and what shouldn't. And so some of these communities have taken the liberty to they interpret it differently.
And I may be sensing this totally wrong, and maybe I'm too close to the source, maybe to accurately understand this. But it seems to me like what I see is like a boiling resentment to being forced to close. And as I've noticed, I see a lot of people open that shouldn't be open. And I'm wondering if we're not seeing the rise of like social disorder out there where people say, to heck with you, I'm going to open regardless.
Well, I hope not. Most people and most businesses have been very compliant, and they all understand. They get it. There certainly have been some that have been loud. A few have been loud on social media, and that attracts a lot of attention. The order right now is very clear on what should and should not be open, and I think we've gotten to the point that people understand what that looks like. No one understands it better than me because I've got businesses that are closed.
All right,
I get it.
Councilman, I don't want to. I know that we're going to run out of time if we're not careful, and
Right.
Lubbock's done other things. What else did y'all talk about at the council meeting last night?
Well, we discussed, the city will be a beneficiary of the CARES Act. There's going to be some stimulus money for the airport, or the big buckets were the airport and city bus, and so that was good news for both of those entities. We did some work on some zoning cases last night, and then there were several downtown grants that we authorized through LEDA last night. But yeah, business goes on. there's still other business to take care of, and we're doing the best we can to do that with the city as we also get used to these Zoom meetings.
So, Councilman, you know me. I'm not a big fan of us focusing only on downtown and through Lita anyway.
Sure.
But as we move forward, is now really the time to be handing out grants when we don't even know whether we're going to be able to have meet the budget needs for the rest of this year?
No, it's a great point, Matt, and I certainly do know how you feel about that. The grants that were awarded last night, keep in mind that process takes several months, and those business owners started those processes last year. To your point, I think Lita is working on a program to help small businesses all across the city, and I think you can look forward to that announcement next week, and I think that will be very welcome.
So again, do we have any idea as far as is Lubbock going to be in a position where there's going to have to be a lot of cuts made? Are we going to be lowering the amount of people working for Lubbock, anything like that, or do we just not know yet?
It's just too soon to tell, Matt.
Okay.
I mean, there are. I think what you can bank on is there's some tough decisions coming in the future, but it's just too soon to say at this point in time.
Okay. We do have to take another quick break, and I know that this seems to move fast, but gotta pay the bills here too. So we'll be right back. Councilman Massengale, we're back, and so what I know that y'all get a lot of flack, I guess, for what's going on in the city right now. I mean, my big thing is I don't want a Monday morning quarterback. I know that there's a lot of difficult decisions that have had to be made before, and there's a lot of difficult decisions coming up. So I know that it's hard, but what people really want to know is that what's the next step? What are we seeing next?
Well, I think we're looking for. We've got enough data. I think that we'll get guidance, hopefully from the governor. But that there'll be a metric that we're looking for that'll tell us when the next piece of this will start. We're in the response phase of this crisis. I've said it many times. We're anxiously looking forward to the recovery phase. But that decline or that we've talked about, there's a doubling rate that's been looked at, but we're looking for that metric, and I don't know if the governor will give us that metric. I don't know if that'll be a metric by city or maybe by region or maybe by health district, and then it's going to be something like that's going to trigger the next phase of this.
Okay, and I think we're in the 330 confirmed cases, and with that though, I think 140 or so were from the nursing homes that had been.
We're a little over half are still from those nursing homes, which is it's tragic. It is what it is. There still are numbers, and we have to own them. And that's one important thing is you want to compare us to what Amarillo or what Abilene's doing. Keep in mind that we've got a bigger caseload than those communities.
Okay, but again, it is very negative to have these nursing homes getting the coronavirus. But isn't it a positive thing that we know exactly where that spread is coming from versus like a community spread where we don't know where it's coming from?
You're right. That we can, regardless of where it is or what the volume is, we do know and we can contain it. And I have to brag on our health department and our medical industry. They've responded remarkably to these things, and they're working around the clock. They're the front line, and they've done a great job with the challenges that we've been given.
Yeah. Councilman, we have a texter this morning that says, Councilman, please figure out your plan now so it's ready when the governor changes his order. Please don't wait and be reactionary. Also, you should already be adjusting the budget as you can anticipate, that downed revenue is coming. Yet again, reactionary and after the fact. And there's been several texts this morning. I say several. There's I think about three that is in reference to like with due respect, with the number of citizens that have lost their jobs in the last month. I find it hard to believe that every city employee is essential.
Well, let me speak to the reactionary. I mean, again, that's why the mayor's naming this recovery task force now. This group will ramp up rapidly and will work often. It's quite possible they could even have the first meeting this week to start working on what advice they're going to give the city council on how we reopen. So we are being proactive, and we will have that plan in place for whenever we're given the green light.
Yeah. Well, Councilman, tell me again. You're in business. You have local businesses here in Lubbock. What do you look like? What do you think Lubbock is going to look like a year from now?
Oh gosh, a year from now, I hope we're getting back to what normal levels of business are. Although we're not going to look like I don't know that we're ever going to look like what we did prior.
You think we're going to live under a new normal?
Yeah, it's just going to be the new normal. You know, what I'm concerned about and want to do everything we can to help is, you know, we need our schools back open. We need our institutions of higher learning. We need faculty back on campus, and we need students back on campus. And for Lubbock, that's very important. And so we're going to work closely with those entities to make sure that we can support them as they come back.
So, do you think that the governor needs to lift the or do some kind of emergency session to lift the soft cap that's on the amount of taxes that you can raise as a city?
I haven't even thought about that, Matt. I mean, I've been so focused on everything else, I haven't even considered it.
Okay. All right, well, we have to take another quick break, and we'll be right back. This is News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM KFYO, and we're going to go right. We've got Councilman Massengale on the line. Councilman, thank you for coming on. I know that this is a very hard time even to ask questions because there's just so many unknowns. Is there anything that you would like to – we got about 2 minutes left. Is there anything that you would like to specifically talk about?
No, I would just I appreciate you having me on this morning, and you're right. It's hard for everyone to wrap their arms around this. It's a very, very difficult time. When I ran for council, I don't know that I ever dreamed that we'd be managing through a pandemic. I thought the mayor said it best. We see the light at the end of the tunnel, but we're still in the tunnel, and we're committed to keeping our community safe while go ahead and planning on what it looks like where we can reopen safely and responsibly, and we look forward to that.
So Lubbock's health department, have they been, I mean, I'm sure they've been a big part of this, but are they making any specific, recommendations for Lubbock right now?
No, but I think I think in the next several days there's going to be quite a bit of work done on that, and I'll be anxious to hear the recommendations from this group.
Yeah. So, and I was also going to ask with the hotel motel task. I know that this doesn't have a lot to do with the city as far as the expo center, but do you think that's going to hurt what's happening with the expo center?
The collection, yeah, the collection could impact that. I'm sure they have their finance folks looking at it, but again, with only a month, we're a month into this. I think it's just still too early to assess what those what'll happen with those collections. So,
all right. Well, Councilman, thank you for coming on. And again, I know that this is a tough time, so thank you for taking the time to kind of explain what you can.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me, guys.
Let me say, Councilman, again, I don't envy your position.
Well,
so hang in there, man. I tell you, the city's praying for you guys.
All right. Thank you so much. We
right.
appreciate the prayers.
Thank you. All right. Well, we'll be right back after these messages.